start with a new topic today. So Puppet is also another configuration management tool like Chef, Ansible. So this is also based on the master slave concept. So okay, so here in Puppet ecosystem we call Puppet master and the slave we call Puppet agent. Okay, so Puppet ecosystem has Puppet master and Puppet agent and several other components. Okay, so the components which is responsible for getting information from the agents is called factor. Right. So in the same way how facts and OHI profiler works for other configuration management systems, here factor is a component that collects information about the agents. Right? If you just type factor -p, it will list all the variables, system defined variables. Okay, it will list all the variables. So it internally uses something called Puppet DB, Puppet database, to store the information about the manifest and all. Right? So what is manifest? Manifest is a something like a cookbook. It's a script to perform some task. Right? So manifest generally ends with .pp, sample.pp, indicating that it's a Puppet program. Okay. So again, Puppet is written in Ruby. It's developed by Puppet Labs. Right. So to write the manifest, what we use is something called DSL. This is Puppet domain specific language. Okay. So in case of Chef, we have written something like this, right? So resource, then resource type, then resource, then do, and then end. In between we have written something like action or something, install. So here the syntax is something like this: resource type, resource, and we enclose that in between the curly braces. Okay, and here we write the code. Here we something called ensure it is installed. Okay, so this is the Puppet DSL. This is Chef JSON. Right, so Puppet has its own language to write the manifest. So here manifests are nothing but the cookbooks or the playbooks. Right. So Puppet also has the enterprise version and the open source edition. So using open source edition, we can manage up to 10 nodes. If you want more than 10 nodes, you have to go for the enterprise edition. And it also has the graphical user interface. This is called Puppet console. So the open source edition of the Puppet doesn't have the graphical user interface support. Puppet Enterprise has the support and it's called Puppet console. Okay. So Puppet is like another configuration management tool based on server client model. Puppet master and the agent will be there in the ecosystem. It uses Puppet DB, and there are some other components also in Puppet. Factor is the component that collects information about the agents, and we call the scripts which we write in Puppet as manifest. They end with .pp, sample.pp. pp indicates it's a Puppet program. Puppet is written and developed in Ruby by Puppet Labs, and to write manifest we use something called DSL, Puppet domain specific language, and it is something like the code we enclose between the curly braces. interfaces, and we specify the resource type and the resource and ensure, right? By default, Puppet supports 10 nodes for the open source edition, and if you want to go for the enterprise edition, you need to buy the license from Puppet Labs, right? And here, something like supermarket, we have Puppet Forge site. So this is the repository of Puppet manifest. You can download the manifest right here and directly use it. Is this clear? Any questions so far?
So Santosh, they are basically just two components, server and client, right? They are just two components.
When we say Puppet ecosystem, Puppet master, Puppet agent, Puppet DB, Puppet factor, and there is something called Puppet hiera, which is also like key value pair.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the main components. And it uses something called SSL certificates for the communication between the master and the agent.
So you have to install SSL certificates?
Yes.
Or you cannot have just generate key, you cannot use that, just you have to install certificates?
I mean, Puppet will install when we install Puppet master and the Puppet agent on the machine. So it will automatically generate the SSL certificate, and we need to exchange the certificates between the master and the agent.
Yeah, how's the communication work? Because let's say in Chef, we have a workstation, client, and a server. We write everything code in the client and upload to the server, and then the client pull from the server, right? And is also pulling the run books from the workstation.
Yeah,
How does it work in Puppet? Oh, okay.
Configuration. First, we'll go to the installation. Then we'll go to the configuration. Then we'll go to the setup. How to set up master and the slave. How to exchange the certificates. How to validate the certificates from the master. Then we'll go to writing something in manifest. Okay.
Okay. So basically, we have three. Okay, so basically we have three servers like workstation, master, client, master, and Puppet.
We have two components. One is the master, the other is the agent. We write the manifest on the master. Okay. Then using Puppet apply, this is also based on the pull mechanism. So when we execute Puppet apply on the agent, it will extract the manifest from the master and it will execute it.
Okay. We haven't used that word manifest before, right? Or manifest.
Yeah, we haven't used. This is the first time.
Okay, so manifest is just a different name for the cookbook.
Yeah, just the manifest or cookbook or playbook. All are same.
Okay, and you also mentioned something about the domain, also domain specific. I don't know what that means. If you go up something, somewhere you mentioned about domain.
We write in YAML. Chef, we write in JSON. Puppet, we write in DSL. Every language has its own syntax, right? In the similar way, Puppet also has its own language to develop the manifest.
Okay. So they call it DSL, which is the stand for
language.
Okay. It's just a confusing domain with 80 domain. So
it's a Puppet domain specific language.
Okay, yeah.
It's domain specific language, right? So that Groovy we can call
What
it.
what
Yeah.
advantage Puppet has over Chef or Ansible, or like what is like it's just or it's just a matter of preferences, or what do you want to use? Or
See, it's like Puppet is the oldest of all these three, and Puppet has a lot of modules, right? So Puppet labs, they themselves upload some modules to Puppet site, and they certify it. So if Puppet certifies the module, it's like we can use it. Here we call modules. So something like roles in Ansible, cookbooks in Chef, we call them Puppet modules. So modules are the ones which can directly download from Puppet site, and we can use it. So most of the requirements will be there in Puppet site. So in terms of the modules, Puppet is the richest. It has around 8,000 plus modules,
oh, okay,
whereas Chef has around, I think, 4,000 modules, and Ansible has around 1,000 roles. So that way, Puppet is the better in terms of modules or getting the requirements. Puppet is the best. Or if you have something like simplest requirement, simple tool without much complex listing, Ansible is the best.
okay, okay. So if you say if somebody asks you for the enterprise solution, you're gonna suggest them Puppet or Chef? You're gonna suggest them Puppet?
Yeah, Puppet, we can go for Puppet. And it is very complex environment with lot of different operating systems. Then maybe we can go for Chef.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So when we come to the installation, so this is the same thing. Installation is also little difficult compared to Ansible. Ansible is easiest of all. Chef is toughest of all, and Puppet is something like in between. It's a moderator. So we install Puppet Master on the machine. Install Puppet Master on one of the machines. Then install Puppet Agent on the other machine. Then we need to establish the communication, right? So there are some configuration files that have to be modified on the master and on the agent, right? So on the agent, there is something called etc puppet puppet.conf. So here I need to tell my agent like this is your master, right? So go and managed by this master. So that's what we tell the agent. So here there is something called master, and here we need to give the machine name of the master, right? Something like that. The master name is server. So I give server here. Okay. Then we need to restart the agent. Service puppet restart. This is to restart the agent. Service puppet master restart. This is to restart the master. Okay, so these are the daemons. Once we install it, we get the daemons on the machine, and then we can restart them once we do the configuration, right? And so we need to exchange the certificates once we installed and once we configured this thing. We need to we need to exchange the certificates between the master and the server. So let's say this is master and this is agent. So on the agent, for the first step, we do something called puppet agent. We execute a command called puppet agent. This will send certificate to master for validation. Okay. So the first step will send SSL certificate to master for validation, because Puppet agent has to contact master, because when we execute Puppet agent on the agent machine, it will get the manifest from the master. We read the manifest in the master, and when we say Puppet agent, execute Puppet agent, for the first time it generates a certificate and sends that certificate to master. Now from the master I need to validate it. So second step is to validate the SSL certificate. So here we have something called Puppet certificate list. This will list out all the certificates for the multiple agents. Then we say Puppet cert sign on and the certificate name or the machine agent name. So this will sign the certificate. So this is like validating the certificate. So once this step is completed, it's like communication is established between the master and the agent. So only two steps: install master package here, install it, and modify the puppet.conf to point to master on the agent. So on the agent, we give information about the master. Once this is done, then we exchange the certificate between the agent and the master. So first thing is we execute Puppet agent command. Then this will generate the certificate and it will send it to master. So once master validates it using Puppet cert sign on, it is authorizing agent to access the master, right? So once this is done, then we can execute the manifest. It is like communication is established between the agent and the master. Is this clear?
Yes, Santosh, it's clear.
Okay. So let us go to the configuration part. So I have two machines. One is client, the other is the server. So I'll just go to the documentation and
Are we using Red Hat or are we using Red Hat, right?
CentOS actually. So for CentOS and Red Hat, it's same.
Okay.
Okay. So this will actually release .rpm. This is for creating the repository. If we install this, a repository will be created on the master. Okay. So Puppet Labs release 7.10. Now, then I need to install the Puppet master. How do we install? Yum install Puppet server. See, I just asked to install Puppet server and it will install all these things, installing all these things, Ruby and all. Because Puppet is written in Ruby, so Ruby is the prerequisite to install Puppet.
The repository that you added, is there like it's going to be the same repository for all versions of CentOS, or it's
For 7, for 6 it's different.
for
See,
okay?
for 6.5 this is the one. For 7, all derivatives of 7, this is the one.
Okay. And one more thing, Santosh, most of the time it says on the site, it says like a package for Red Hat. So any package that is for Red Hat, they're okay to use for CentOS as well, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. Any package for CentOS can be used for Red Hat as well, CentOS as well.
Okay.
Okay. So next thing is once we install the Puppet server, this is to add the repository.
Does Puppet also require a lot of resources like Chef?
No,
Remember
not
Chef?
like so. This can be easily installed.
Okay.
What this do? What this does? This command. CSK config.
I think it's gonna check the configuration. Or it looks like.
So this command will make Puppet Master persistent across reboots. Not only this thing, any process,
Oh, okay.
config and the process name, and on if you say, even if the machine reboots, when a machine reboots, what happens? This process will be killed. This process will be stopped. And when it comes up, this process again we have to restart manually if we do not switch this flag on. If this is on, that process will be started automatically even when the machine reboots. When the machine is coming up, this process will be started.
Okay, but we don't have to do that for Chef. This is only for Puppet only.
Yeah, we can do it's optional step. We can do it for Chef as well. Anything for any process we can do.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then we start the Puppet Master starter. This starts the Puppet Master. Okay, so this is the configuration on the master. Only 3 steps. Install the package. Install the repository. Install the package. Make this persistent. Start the Puppet Master. These are the steps on the master. On the agent. So again on the agent we need to install Puppet agent. So one more step we have to do is we need to disable the firewall for the port. We need to allow this port for Puppet to communicate. Puppet uses 8140. So the command is this thing, firewall cmd %OS 7. Open the port.
I think it's a reload. I think CMD.
Okay, let me try that. Firewall cmd reload. Okay, let's give it a hyphen reload. Something will start. Okay, let me see what that. Okay, fine. Let us see. Firewall is not running itself. Let us see the client configuration.
So basically, we are allowing public access to server on port 8140.
Yeah, we are opening the port 8140 on the master.
Server on the master. So the agent will talk to the master on 8149, right? 840.
Yes.
Yeah, there was one command to check like what ports are open. Remember you showed us last time. I think is it a firewall or there was something that shows like which ports are open and which ports are closed.
Let's start hyphen NA.
Let's start.
Okay. These are the ports.
Open. Okay.
Okay, so we'll go to the client configuration, and we again have to add that repository. So I'll again execute this command on the client. Okay, so next command is to install Puppet. Puppet is for agent client. So just Puppet. Okay, so agent is installed. Then chk config Puppet on. Okay, then so we need to change the Puppet server on the agent. So here we need to give information about the Puppet master. So on agent, I need to modify sysconfig. Okay, so there is no file. So I'll just create one file and add it. So I'll just give this as server. Okay, so one more thing is server should be able to ping. So server is not pinging. So I need to add the client and the master information on both the nodes in etc hosts, right? So that IP to hostname to IP resolution happens. Okay, so this is client and this is master. I think it should be server. Okay, now I should be able to ping the server, right? So we just installed the packages, we started the process, and now I need to edit the file etc sysconfig puppet to add the information about the master. So I just have given the host name of the master as server, right? Because my host name of the master is server. So this can be anything. So whatever is the name that we need to give in this file, so that client contacts the master for the authentication and authorization, right? Then there is also another file called puppet.conf. VIETC puppet.conf. So here we need to specify again the server name. So some default configuration files are there that also we need to specify. So that is in the agent section. So there are two sections. One is the main section, the other is the agent section. So I'll just give server name as again the server, right? So our master name is server. So this can be any name. So in one organization, maybe the name is like this. This is ctx1p14.in.ibm.com. So this is something like, this is the machine name, the Puppet master name, fully qualified domain name, right? So for practice, we have configured Vagrant. So I'll use the Vagrant name. Okay. So I'll just save this. So these are the two configurations which we have done. Then we'll say service Puppet restart. Then we'll say Puppet agent -t. For the first time, this should generate a certificate. Service Puppet status. Service Puppet stop. So we'll see verbose Puppet agent -verbose. Okay, so one more thing is to establish the communication between the master and the agent. The both should be in the time synchronization. There should be time sync between both master and the agent. So let us see if that is a problem. Date 1310. Okay, it is 1310, 1222, 1310. Yeah, this is also fine.
Then SSHD is running on the.
Okay, let me see SSH service SSH D status. Yeah, it is running. That lib SSL. It has generated SSL as well.
I think Santosh, we have to go to the server and accept all the certificates first, accept all of them, and then
So
try the
first time
command.
what happens is it will generate a certificate in Puppet agent. So that will show something like generating the certificate in something like green color. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that step. Anyway, let me see what is the status on Puppet master status. Okay, it's not started. Start it. Okay, this is running.
Yeah.
So Puppet cert
List and accept
listing
all.
for the certificate. So there is nothing because it's not generated the certificate yet.
Okay.
You're right. So it is actually trying to send the certificate to server, but on the server daemon was not started. That is the reason it was failing. Now if I see, there will be a certificate from the client. So this host name is client. So it has sent a certificate from the client to server. Okay. So it is actually trying to connect to the server, but connection refused because Puppet Master was not running on the server. So that's the reason why it failed. So when I started the service on the master, it actually generated the certificate and it has sent that certificate to master, right? And then I need to sign on this certificate. Okay, so Puppet cert sign. Okay, certificate is signed. Once certificate is signed, that certificate will be removed from the Puppet cert list. That we can see using -all. All the certificates we can see using -all. Okay, so now the communication is established between the master and the agent, right? So first we started the agent, Puppet agent -t, and before that step we need to start the master. We haven't started the master, so it was failing. So once the master is started, Puppet agent has sent the certificate for the validation, and we have validated the certificate using Puppet cert sign. This is the command, Puppet cert sign.
So Santosh, we have started the services on the master, right?
Yeah, right. We started.
Like master services restart, something like that. What your services? Okay.
No, the service was not at all started for the first time on the master. Once the installation is done, immediately we need to start the service.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, see, I have given the step, but I did not do the step on the master.
Okay, yes, okay, I got you.
So service, once we install the package, service Puppet start, and then go to etc Puppet, etc sysconfig Puppet, add the server as server name, host name. This is the one step. And then fourth step is go to etc Puppet, puppet.conf, and edit again server name as server. Right? So once that is done, then Puppet agent -t, this will send the certificate to master. Okay. And then we need to sign the certificate on the master. So here the sixth step is Puppet cert sign and the client. Okay, so this will validate the certificate. So these are the steps to do Puppet configuration. Once all these steps are completed, Puppet configuration is established between the master and the slave. Right? So let us test that. So I have master, I have agent. So then I'll go to etc Puppet and I'll create a directory manifest, cd manifest. So here there is something called site.pp. So by default, Puppet looks for this file. Site.pp is the file. When Puppet agent is executed, by default, whatever is there in the site.pp, that will be executed on the agent, right? So when Puppet agent is executed, on the client, it looks for site.pp on the master. So site.pp is present on the master. When Puppet agent is executed on the client, by default, it looks for site.pp, and whatever is the code available on site.pp, that will be executed on the Puppet agent, right? So we have master, we have agent. Yeah.
Is that file we have to create manually, site.pp? Or?
Yeah, we need to create.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll go here, etc manifest, and create a file called site.pp on the master, and I'll add some sample code. Okay, so on the master, in the file site.pp, I'll just add something. File is, we can give some file name, file, and I'll give the path of the file as temp file. Okay, and then content I can give something, hello world or something. Okay, so this is a file is a resource here. Resource type is file. So create a file called file in the path temp file and with the content hello world. So in between it is enclosed in curly braces. Okay, so let us try to execute this. So this I'll place in the site.pp on the master. Okay, so file, and then the resource name is file, path is temp file, content is hello world. So this file has to be created on the client.
Are the equal sign in the file? This is
What is that sign?
this equal sign and arrow.
This is equal and greater than sign.
Oh,
Use the notation.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I think I created on the client, right? We need to create on the server. etc puppet manifest. Yeah, this directory is there by default. We don't have to create that on the client. Actually, we need to create it on the agent. Okay, I'll remove it. So I'll create site.pp here, and I'll add the code. Then save. Nothing is required on the client, so I'll remove the manifest. Okay, so I have a client, I have a master, and I have site.pp on the master, for which I have written little some code that is using Puppet DSL. Now, if I execute Puppet agent -t on the client, this should pull this manifest and it should execute on the client, right? So I'll try that Puppet agent -t. Okay, unable to fetch node definition. Okay, so we need to also give node definition inside .pp. Node client. Okay, what is the error? Could not resolve server.this thing. We will be able to, unable to ping the client, Server hostname server did not match server certificate. Expected is this thing. Okay. So let us also add that in etc host. Actually, it should have full name, something like this. This is the fully qualified domain name. This is the short name. So we should always use the full names. Let us try if this works. Unable to fetch my node definition, but the agent will continue to run. Server hostname server did not match server certificate. Let me see the syntax. Node, and I have given node here. Site.pp node client. Okay, just a second. I'll just try this way. Is it expecting this? Let me see if I modify this in puppet.conf. Will it work? The full name. Okay, I think it has fetched the node definition, but could not retrieve the catalog from the remote server, could not parse the environment production syntax error at node 1. Okay, at least it is able to read it now. Syntax error at node 1 inside.pp on the node client this thing. Okay, so there is some syntax error at the node 1. Import node1.pp. That is what we have done, right? That is what import. Okay, import, we have to do something like this. Okay, so finally it is working. So the problem is, we can write in site.pp also, or we can call another file using import command, right? So we have configured the master, we have configured the agent, right? So we have master, we have agent. So it is always advisable, it's always recommended to use the full name, something like master.in. Let us say visualpart.com, agent.in.pp.com. While setting up the server itself, we need to have this kind of name, because in production or in real time, we'll have fully qualified domain name. So it expects fully qualified domain name. That is the one mistake. Second mistake is in the agent, in etc puppet.conf, we have given the server name, right? So here server name also has to be the fully qualified domain name, right? Once these two steps are performed, when we execute Puppet agent on the agent machine, it will try to pull the manifest from the server, right? So this manifest by default, it looks into file called site.pp. Either we can have code in site.pp, but generally what do is we import the other files. So import node1.pp. This can be anything. Let us say xyz.pp. Right. So the code from xyz.pp will be executed. So in xyz.pp, I can write file, package, service, resources, and all. Right. So let us just write some other. So this would have created a file called temp file, and the content of the temp file will be hello world. Right. So using manifest, we have created a test file. Right. So in a similar way, you can also install a package. Let us say in site.pp, I'll give import node2.pp. Right. I'll just copy node1.pp to node2.pp. In node2.pp, I'll add the code to install a package. So node is client. This is same. Service name is package. Let us say HTTP D, and path is not required, and ensure installed. Okay, so this is the code for installing the package HTTPD on the client. Now let me try to execute the Puppet agent. When I execute Puppet agent, it has to get the second manifest, which is to install the package. What is that? There is again a syntax issue on node. Okay, resource is failed. Let us see what is the syntax issue. Node client package HTTP. Okay, so let me see any syntax issue. Ensure, sorry, it should be present. Ensure present. So this is the desired state. Desired state is present. I want this package to be in the present state on the client. Could not retrieve the catalog, skipping the run. Involve a resource type package at etc. Okay. Spelling mistake. Package. Okay, so this should have installed the package HTTPD on the machine. If I check rpm-qa grep for HTTPD, we have installed. And if I say service HTTPD status, it is not running because we haven't started the process. So let us again start it using another manifest, node3.pp. In node3.pp, I'll just write node client service, again HTTPD, ensure started. Okay, so this process has to be in the started state, and by default it looks for site.pp. So I'll give import node3.pp. So when we execute Puppet agent on the agent machine, it by default looks for site.pp. In site.pp we have node3.pp. In node3.pp, the desired state is started. Okay, so here the status is inactive. Once we execute this manifest, it should start the process. Again, there is a syntax error. Invalid state started. What is it? Starting. Started. Let me see running. So this will be there in the documentation. What are the proper states and all? Because of so many tools, ensure running. Okay. So now if I see the status, it is running, right? So this, what are the proper states, what are the accepted states and all, this will be there in the documentation. Service equal to running, service equal to stopped, ensure equal to running, ensure equal to stopped and all. So we can refer to the documentation for the what are the exact states, right? So in Chef we call started, here we call running. Okay, so in this way we can execute the manifest on the client based on the pull mechanism. By default, when we execute something, it goes to server and it looks for site.pp, and whatever is there in the site.pp, that will be executed on the node, right? So here, where did I specify the node? Here I specified the node as client. Here we can specify the multiple machines as well, something like node client. Let us say client 1. If I have multiple machines, I can specify client 2. This way I can group the servers as well. Okay, or I can also have the code that runs on client 1, let us say service. Then I can have another code like node client 2, and again I can have this another the other code for performing something else. Right? We'll see all of them tomorrow. So this is what is Puppet configuration. So we installed the Puppet master and the Puppet agent. We started the service. We did some configuration changes, and then when we execute Puppet agent on the slave, on the agent, it sends the certificate to master for the validation. Once the validation is completed, communication is established between the master and the agent. Then from the agent, we can write the code in master in site.pp. We can import other manifests, and when we execute Puppet agent from the agent, it extracts the manifest from the server and it executes on the agent. Is this clear? Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow.